Hey everybody, how we doing tonight? It's another episode of Non Sequitur Nerds with Tim, joined always by Ian. How's it going, bud?
Going pretty good. Wrapping up a pretty stressful week, but
I hear that.
welcome to being a semi-functional adult.
Yeah, I know how that is, brother. But I mean,
Anyway, moving on to happier topics.
The week's done. We got the weekend to look forward to us.
Exactly, which for me is doing a bunch of housework. Anyway,
yeah, same.
Yeah. Welcome to being adults.
Yep,
it's fun.
Yay!
3 out of 10 would not recommend. What the Billy Madison, Adam Sandler's shaking the kid. Stay young forever,
dude. Oh, you have no idea how many times I want to tell my kids that. They're like, well, when I grow up, I want to be this. Don't do it. Don't.
Right. Well, I think tonight we have some fun stuff to talk about. We've touched on a lot of subjects about like video games and different consoles and MMOs and things like that. But as Tim and I are mildly narcissistic and listening to our own podcast, we realized that there was a big part of our lives that we hadn't covered,
and we would like to apologize for that.
Yes, we would. So, our hearts go out to you. So we tonight are going to cover probably one of the best known publishers, designers, producers in games, Nintendo.
Oh yeah, the classic.
So yes, Nintendo Corporation. One of the oldest of the current console and game developers, actually. Little known.
Well, I'll say even before they were a video game company, they were actually founded in like 1889 as a playing card company.
Yes, they were a playing card company, founded back in 1889. So, one thing that Nintendo can say is that for the lifetime of their company, they have been making games.
Yeah, they have.
Nintendo, they're a big name and a beloved part of my childhood.
Oh, absolutely.
My cousin used to use our Nintendo Entertainment System, or Famicom, as it was known in Japan when it originally released, to babysit me, because he would put on Mario, hand me a controller, and then go take a nap.
I mean, yeah, I think you touched on that before, and my reply was, "It worked."
It did.
You're not dead.
Well, yeah. If we want to measure it with that stick, then sure, fine. Am I a well-adjusted person? Probably not.
I mean, is anybody really?
No.
I don't know if that was a statement or a question, Ian. Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Anyway,
but yeah, I mean, same thing here. Like Nintendo, like growing up as a kid, and I may have mentioned this before. Like my mom's side of the family, they all live pretty close to each other. I mean, geographically, when I was growing up, and my uncle lived just down the road from us, like close enough that I could ride my bike down there in like less than 5 minutes. And I would ride my bike down there to go down and play like Mario, Duck Hunt, a lot of the classic NES games.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I grew up playing those things.
Oh yeah, and I mean, obviously Mario is synonymous with the Nintendo. He is their poster child. Their, their Yahoo! Which, by the way, the same guy does the voice of Mario and Luigi, and I believe the other Mario-esque characters,
Wario and Waluigi, which Charles Martinet.
Yes.
There was, when I was still at GameStop, our manager conference one year, he was there like signing autographs and whatnot. It was a meet and greet. And I ran into him like after he was done doing that. He was just walking the floor, just looking at games and stuff. And I recognized him. And he was with, I'm assuming his wife, girlfriend. It was with a lady friend. And, I didn't really want to interrupt his off the clock time. So as I passed him, I just to say, hey, I just want to say thank you for bringing such a beloved character to life. I've played him my whole life. My kids love him. Thank you. Just real quick like that. And he actually took the time to like stop and chit chat with me for a couple minutes, which I mean,
that's really cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a super nice guy. I just wanted to say that real quick in passing. And he, like I said, he took the time to stop and talk. And again, really nice guy. And again, it's amazing that he's been doing the voices of the four, the Mario brothers and then Wario and Luigi, or Waluigi, who are not brothers, canonically. They're just two bad guys that like hanging out with each other. Which is, all right, cool. But yeah, he does all four voices, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So Mario, first was probably the first game that I ever played on my Nintendo, and I think I actually have. So I still have my original NES system. It's in a bin in my closet right now because I don't have adequate space to display it nicely somewhere.
Yep. That's the same
when I
bin,
move into a bigger house and actually am able to make like a man cave, then I'm going to
Right.
get like a shelf to display my old systems and stuff like that.
I need to get around to doing that in the game room. Like, I've got like so many old consoles over there that are not hooked up that I need to put a shelf or something over there. But yeah. I mean, it's Nintendo is one of those things that even people that aren't Nintendo fans or don't own a Nintendo console these days, like of our generation, I think Nintendo is so iconic that even somebody that hasn't played games would be able to recognize Mario. And I think it was either Guinness or not the beer company, the record company. Guinness or somebody said that they found out that Mario is the most recognizable pop icon and was even recognized by people who don't play video games. They knew who Mario was. He just has that much exposure. So, I mean, Nintendo must have done something right if here we are, 30 years later, people know Mario,
Yeah, exactly. No, he's a very iconic character.
Oh, yeah.
And, Mario, Luigi, which Mario's original appearance was actually in Donkey Kong, I believe, as Jumpman.
Yep.
So Donkey Kong and Mario.
Carpenter originally instead of a plumber.
Yes, I believe so. And Donkey Kong was his pet gorilla that escaped, and so he was trying to catch him. And then that's also where Pauline came from. I don't know if the damsel in distress. I was going to say heroine. I'm like, no, that's not right.
Right.
The damsel in distress of Mario's Jumpman's first foray.
Which canonically, she's currently the mayor of New Donk City. So
yes.
So I mean, it's kind of neat that like even a character who didn't really have much story to her, they're kind of giving her, she's no longer the damsel in distress. She's a leader.
Yeah.
It's kind of a neat little upgrade. Empowerment. Right on.
Right. Yeah. And they've expanded the Mario cast significantly over the years. I mean, there was originally, technically, I think it was King Koopa.
Yep,
was the original, and then it was Bowser.
Yep,
and it has since been Bowser. Then they added Yoshi in Super Mario World. There's obviously been Princess Peach, or throughout the entire time, Toads or the Toadstools, all the different enemies.
Princess Daisy.
Right, Princess Daisy, the Koopa Kids.
The Koopa Kids, Bowser Jr.
Bowser Jr., Baby Mario, Baby Luigi, Mario,
Waluigi. I mean, the list goes on and on,
Oh, yeah, it's huge. The Shy Guy, they've got the Shy Guys, they've got Shy Gal.
Wait, really?
I think she's canonically in the games now.
I know Bowsette is not.
No, as much as we are lobbying for that character to wind up to be in a game,
right?
I mean, Toadette, obvious. You never know, man. Nintendo surprises you sometimes, but
they still haven't put Waluigi in Smash. Just saying.
Correct, but he's also a Spirit Trophy, so...
I know, but, I want to play as Waluigi. I mean, and there's a lot of fans out there who, same thing, they want Waluigi in Smash. And instead we've got, 500 Fire Emblem characters.
Well, yes,
Fire Emblem's a good game, don't get me wrong, but I mean...
admittedly, with all the Fire Emblem characters that they have, they've still barely scratched the surface of Fire Emblem characters.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, that's a game with a legacy.
At least they kind of expanded a little bit by adding, Sephiroth and Pyrrha and Mithra,
right?
From the Xenosaga, because there was only one Shulk was the only Xenosaga character, playable character.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, which I mean, the Xenoblade games are those are really good games. I actually started replaying Chronicles 2. And I want to pick up the remastered one for the Switch because I had a blast with that game.
Yeah. So, Nintendo's been big. They've they've had their ups and downs, their foibles, and their things like that, but they've always generally had good consoles, if not niche.
Right.
Like once they got out of GameCube, they kind of became like, well, really, they defined themselves. I think like they went like they knew who they were and they went with it.
Oh yeah.
Like they were a family entertainment system. They weren't trying to be, shooters, or they weren't trying to be, the mature RPG type things. They were family consoles. Like
right.
they knew who they were. I mean, so we talk about the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yep.
So we went from 8-bit to 16-bit graphics, and then we went.
Which that was the first Nintendo console that I owned when it was current. I own an NES now, but growing up, my uncle had the NES. The Super Nintendo was the first one that I owned.
Right. I had the original NES, and then I had the Super Nintendo, and then there was the Nintendo 64, which was a huge, massively huge upgrade.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, and it was. I mean, we look back at the graphics now, like the polygons and things like that, the blocky characters. But back then it was just like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Like I still remember playing. The first time I played Mario 64. I mean, it was a 3D game. It was the first like big 3D console. I remember as I'm playing it, like leaning to try to look around stuff because it was 3D, and my mind was telling me you can look around this tree, you can look behind that corner. And my mom, she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I keep trying to look around this stuff, Mom. I'm sorry." And like she kind of stared at it, and after a while, I caught her going.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for its time, those were groundbreaking graphics. I mean,
right.
And
well,
I mean,
and
even,
then
they still like they're like you said, they're still blocky, and by today's standards, nowhere near realistic. But they held up for a while,
Oh yeah, I mean, it looked like Mario had two softballs for fingers, but
but still,
or hands. He didn't have fingers; it was just two softballs for hands. Yeah, and I believe that was actually Mario's first voiced appearance.
I think you're right because I think the what was it? The Philips CDI, if you remember that thing.
Oh yeah.
They had a partnership with Nintendo. I think there were some voice clips on there, but I think that came out after the N64. But we're not going to talk anymore about the Philips CDI.
No,
if you guys don't know what it is, look it up. It's a hot
miserable.
Mess. It's Virtual Boy level of cringe, which that's all I'm going to say on the Virtual Boy.
Oh god, I forgot about the Virtual Boy.
I
remember, fun console that hurts your neck and makes your eyes bleed.
I remember when that thing came out was either right before or during my time with Toyworks, my very first job. And like they had a interactive display, you could boot it up, play it. And I remember every time I would see that thing, people would look at it, but nobody would play the thing. It just sat there. If that tells
I applaud Nintendo for what they were trying to do.
Yeah,
they were 25 years ahead of their time.
Yeah, I mean, they were trying to innovate, which is... that's the big thing about Nintendo versus the other consoles. Other consoles, particularly Sony and Microsoft, because unfortunately Sega is no longer in the game. But speaking specifically to Sony and Microsoft, they've always been about horsepower, for the most part. Like the best graphics, the best features, the best speed, the best of, making a game be an awesome game. Nintendo has always been more of the mentality of good graphics don't make it a good game or a good game system. They try to make it something fun. Mm-hmm. And they've been doing it for years. It seems to work. I mean,
after they... Yeah. And Nintendo, I think this is something we might have covered before. Nintendo has actually pioneered the analog stick on controllers. Yeah. They were the first ones to do the analog stick. I think they were the first ones to do a D-pad on a controller as well.
Oh yeah, I mean with the NES, I mean boom, it was right there. And like I think like that particular style of D-pad, I think Nintendo has a patent on, which is why you see like with the Sony controllers. They typically have had where it's still the 4 cardinal directions, but it's a split button. It's the pad is split.
Xbox for a while had the normal D-pad, and then they started moving away from it to the more multi-directional pad. Yeah. I don't even know what it's called. I just read an Omnipad, I guess.
Maybe. I mean, and that works for the Xbox. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and but Nintendo's, like you said, they always try to innovate, and they try to. Basically, ever since after the GameCube, which the GameCube was a great system, I still have mine. It still functions mostly.
Right.
It occasionally gets a disc read error, or the motor in the spinner still stalls out, but
Yep,
you
yep.
just kind of like you have to power it off and power back on, and then it finds its horsepower again.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
But after that, they had the Wii, which
Yeah.
the Wii was revolutionary for its time
Yes,
because
it
it
was.
was motion. Let me rephrase it. It was good motion control.
Yes, yes.
Sony tried to do their Hitachi magic wand sex toy thing, and it
Which
failed miserably.
Like I had the PlayStation Move,
Yeah,
and I think like tech wise, it was pretty impressive. The problem that it had though was there weren't any must-have games for it. I mean, there were good games, but there weren't really any that were peripheral sellers. I mean,
right.
you had games that, I mean, most of the games that I played for it worked really well. But I wouldn't have gone out and bought it specifically for any of those games.
It was the
And
problem
this is coming
with
from a
that
Sony guy.
Right. The problem with that is it was an afterthought product. So Sony had the PS2, PS3.
Yep.
They created the thing after that.
Yeah.
They didn't mold their entire business model around this,
That motion ecosystem.
Right, that motion ecosystem. Nintendo did.
Yeah.
They had the Wiimotes.
Mm-hmm.
Their entire shtick was this little tiny thing that looked like a subwoofer controller that you held in both hands, and you could flick it and move and destroy your TV on accident.
Well, there was one time when I had my Wii. I was living in a house with a couple people, and somebody wanted to try it out. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. I got to run some errands real quick. Have fun. So I come back, and like everybody's sitting on the couch, just like looking real shady, and I'm like, what? Like, nothing. Everything's fine. So I kind of look around. The Wii stuff sitting on the table. Didn't think anything of it. Went to my room, and I hear them all mumbling. So I run out real quick. And when I came in the door, I didn't see it. But coming back from the other direction, I see a Wii remote-shaped hole in the frickin' drywall. So the Wii remote still worked. To its credit, those things were built. They were durable, but not durable enough. But the drywall was less durable.
That was also probably a crappy, crappily built home.
Well, I mean, yeah, it really was. It was pretty shoddily put together.
I mean, they really innovated with the Wii and really found themselves in there and in the handheld market.
Yeah, like Nintendo.
I don't think anybody.
They've dominated the handheld.
I don't think anybody has ever been close. Like maybe Sega with their handheld. I can't remember what it was called. The Game Gear,
which I actually have one sitting right over there. So
right. It had a lot of horsepower, it was a really good system.
I mean,
it was a battery hog,
full color. That's the big thing is the Game Gear ate batteries like a kid eating candy. But you also got to think it had a full backlit color screen, and so, honestly, really good. It had stereo sound on it, which the Game Boy at the time only had mono sound. So I mean, all in all, like if you compare the two, the Game Gear was leaps and bounds ahead of the Game Boy. But it boils back to Nintendo, like. I mean, you had your Sonic games, things like that on the Game Gear, and your Sega staples. But the Game Boy, had the Nintendo logo on it, and they had the Nintendo franchises, which is really what sold that thing.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the and they've continued again to dominate in the handheld market.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody has even come close to touching them. Xbox didn't even bother trying the handheld.
Right.
Sony tried with the Vita, I believe.
Yep, the Vita and then the PSP series of systems before that.
Right, which I believe I read that they're finally discontinuing those.
Yeah, well,
I think they're finally throwing in the towel.
Well, the Vita hasn't really had any major games come out for it for a long time now, but they announced not too long ago that they were shutting down the digital stores for them, which I'm a little sad by. They're shutting down purchases before they do that. I don't know the exact dates, but then they're going to shut down the store after that. So, like, right now, people are scrambling on their old Sony handhelds. Oh, and PS3 is part of this as well. They're getting on their old systems to download everything they've ever purchased just so they can have that. Because once that store's gone, that stuff's gone.
Yeah.
Which
I mean,
it's a sad thing because a lot of those games were only digital. And apart from if you download it and have it on your system and hope to God your system never crashes, reformats itself, breaks, whatever, there's no real way to preserve those games, which... I mean, anybody that knows me knows that, I mean, you can kind of attest to this as well, that game preservation is a big thing because with cartridges, with CDs. You have that physical media right there. As long as you take care of it, it'll last forever. Digital content, once like the digital storefront or whatever service it's on is gone, that stuff's gone forever. Unless you have it downloaded,
Yeah,
it's gone. Which it's a sad thing.
So I mean, it is a sad thing. I've never, and we've discussed this before. Like, I'm not a huge like Sony fanboy like the man in white next to me is, who has a chair that looks like a PS5.
It kind of does actually. No, this is my PS5. It's just that big. I'm sitting on it.
He's right, actually. So they're thrown in the towel, which is probably a good thing. The handheld market, Nintendo has dominated it. They had the Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy.
They had the Advance SP, which
Advance,
like that. That was a really good upgrade. I mean, the Advance was good, but the Advance SP, adding in that backlight, years after Sega did it, that was a game changer for people, because no longer did you have to buy those janky like light kits that drain your battery or drain their own batteries, reflect weird off your screen and kind of give you light. You didn't have to do that anymore, which is amazing. I remember going out and getting one of those the day they came out, just because I'm like, I want that backlight. I want this.
Right. And then they had the DS, which was the clamshell. Clamshell unit that had the stylus, like you could touch it. It had mild touch controls. It was really cool.
Oh yeah,
and they had
absolutely.
the 3DS, which was bulkier. Well, at least the original was bulkier, because I have an original one that's actually right here.
There you
go. Green screen. So yeah,
Well, that's an XL, DS. Isn't it?
This is an XL. Yes.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, it's a 3DS XL. But
I mean,
they have the 3DS. And then Nintendo, I think, made probably one of the smartest decisions they could have made.
Yep.
They were sitting there looking at their consoles, their desktop or their tabletop consoles. Mm-hmm. They were looking at their Game Boys, and I think somebody was just sitting there and went, "Huh? Huh?
If we put these two things together, fusion."
And then we got the Switch, which has been a phenomenal console. You're talking about a system that has detachable controllers that are fully motion controlled,
and better than what the Wii was ever able to accomplish.
Yes.
Yep.
The system itself is motion controlled, and it is dockable.
Yep.
You have a portable system that you can then dock to charge it and play it on your TV.
Best of both worlds. You can play it at home. You can play it on the go.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like they kind of tried that with their ill-fated Wii U system. I mean, I think that was kind of the trial run of the Switch, if you will. But the big difference between the Wii U and the Switch, and I remember being at GameStop, people would ask this all the time. The Wii U had a tablet controller, but it had to be within a certain range of the console, because all that information was being sent wirelessly to it. If you went out of range, the tablet was a useless paperweight. Yeah, and I remember we had so many people like, hey, this tablet thing's not working. Like, okay, what's going on? Well, my kids and I got in the car and they couldn't play their game anymore. Well, yeah, it's a controller. It just happens to have a screen on it. And I mean, there were so many things. Even the rep from Nintendo that we had dedicated to our store for a while, even she said that, well, she and then later he, because we had two different ones, even they said that, like, the naming, for one, was a big thing, because a lot of people didn't know that it was a new console. They thought it was something you could buy for your existing Wii, like an add-on type of thing. Like, the marketing was really confusing on it. And they said, internally, even Nintendo was saying, yeah, we kind of dropped the ball on this. But by the time they figured out how to course correct, the system had such a bad stigma that even course correcting and doing a whole new marketing campaign, it just didn't work for it. I mean, I owned a Wii U, but that's the only major Nintendo console that I don't own anymore. Mostly because I never played it when I had it. I ended up selling it to a buddy I worked with, just because he didn't want to pay full retail for them, and he couldn't find them used because nobody had them. So I'm like, hey, I can just sell it to you for what we sell them for used. You can just, it's yours. So you bought it, and I haven't really even thought about getting one since. And a lot of the good games that did come out for the Wii U, they've since brought to the Switch. So it's like, there's no reason for me to get one. I mean, unless maybe, 10 years down the road, I'm filling out my Nintendo collectible shelf and go, there's an empty spot there. I really should do this. But even then, it's a hard sell for me.
Yeah.
So.
And, with the Switch, it's such an amazing thing because the graphics are great.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the horsepower
they're
that
not
has.
They're not like 4K high fidelity stuff, but I mean, it's a Nintendo games, right?
Yeah.
Like they're colorful and pretty.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, Breath of the Wild.
I was going to say, exactly.
Takes your breath away when you play that game.
Absolutely.
I was in utter amazement the first time I played that and saw just the myriad of colors and the lighting effects and everything else, and I was like, holy crap.
Well, like, it's amazing, like, compared to, like, the newer systems, like the PS5 and the Xbox Series line, it does, horsepower-wise, it doesn't even hold a candle to those systems. But that doesn't mean it can't, like, Breath of the Wild, like you said, beautiful game. The Pokemon Sword and Shield, beautiful games. I mean, like, any of the Nintendo-produced things that came out for this, they did a phenomenal job of optimizing these games to look and perform as good as possible. And they did an amazing job on it.
Yeah, and so, I mean, Nintendo has maintained these iconic consoles and maintained this, fantastic presence in the market, and they don't try to really compete against. Sony and Microsoft are constantly duking it out.
Yep.
Nintendo doesn't try. They're not going after them. I said earlier, they know who they are, and they are happy to be who they are, and they're sticking to it, and they're doing an amazing job there. And what's funny is that Nintendo has since partnered, in certain senses, with Microsoft, and actually put out a pretty hilarious FU commercial with Microsoft years ago when Minecraft came to the Switch, because they were like, oh yeah, you can play with your friends on other consoles. We mean you, Xbox.
Yep. I remember that, and I'm like, all right, way to go, Sony.
Yeah, they definitely fired shots right across the nose on that one.
Well, do you think it's still maybe Nintendo holding a little bit of a grudge over the Nintendo PlayStation that never came out?
I don't know. I think Nintendo.
I'd like to think that Nintendo, being as wholesome as they are not the ones to hold a grudge for this long now. But at the same time, they're very much a Japanese company.
Oh sure.
I mean, I can almost see it though. Well, exactly, which is why I'm wondering if those two aren't playing nice anymore. Well, I mean, they don't really play dirty. They just don't play together at all.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think some of that is I think there's a little bit of ego and hubris in Sony's end about that.
Oh, I can see that.
And we're kind of non sequitur here,
Yay.
but I mean, if you look several years ago at this point, Microsoft opened up Xbox Live and said, "Yeah, we'll let you do cross-platform play," which tied into the whole Minecraft thing. Like, no, we're opening it up. It is up to the developers at this point to take advantage of it. If you want to do it, go for it. It's available. And then they did that. Microsoft did it with Mahjong, or however you pronounce that company's name.
Mojang.
Yeah, Mojang. I think they're like Finnish or something.
I think so. Yeah.
Mojang, the folks that created Minecraft. Then Epic did it with Dauntless. So, Dauntless is also multi-platform, true multi-platform cross-play. You could play it on PlayStation, you could play it on PC, you could play it on Xbox all at the same time with other people.
Yep.
Which was really cool. It was basically a Monster Hunter ripoff. It was like Fortnite. It was like Fortnite had a drunken night with Monster Hunter, and that's what they came up with.
That's the best. Like I played Dauntless for a while. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't Monster Hunter. It was a very simplified Monster Hunter. Which, I mean, for somebody
and it was free.
Yeah. Which, I mean, maybe for somebody that's never played Monster Hunter before, that'd be a really great entry. But for me, having just came off of Monster Hunter World, it felt like I was getting a scaled back version of it.
Yeah. And
it was free.
I played the game with some of the same friends that I played Monster Hunter World with, and we played several, for a couple of months together. And
Right.
we were always just like, why don't we just go and play Monster Hunter World?
Right.
Why are we playing this again?
Right.
We never did, but yeah. So anyway,
well, we thought about it.
Right. So getting back to Nintendo, so they have iconic systems, but they also have very iconic franchises.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going to say franchises, legacies, things like that. And Shigeru Miyamoto
Shiggy
is probably,
Shiggy.
Yeah, he is probably one of the most well-known game developers out there. Probably more famous than Todd Howard and Cliff Bleszinski, and those kind of guys, because he's really kind of the grandfather, the father of all of these epic franchises. Creator of Mario, creator of Donkey Kong, creator of Legend of Zelda.
Yeah,
creator. Didn't he do Metroid as well? Wasn't I can't remember.
Maybe. I don't remember.
I can't remember,
yeah. But I mean, he's got a resume. Let's say that,
Yes. Yes, he has a very impressive resume.
Yeah.
And so he's got these franchises that have just been absolutely mind-blowing. And again, defined such an era of my life with all of this, with all of the stuff that he does. And Legend of Zelda is probably one of my all-time, probably my second favorite franchise of all. You might not be able to see it, but
very nice.
There you go.
It's got a Zelda shirt, people.
I have a Zelda shirt and I have a Zelda bracelet that I wear every day too.
There you go. Well, you have a Master Sword too, if I remember right.
I do have a Master Sword. It's actually hanging on my wall downstairs in my dining room.
Yep, that's right. I was like, I remember seeing it somewhere in your house.
It's one of those cheap, somebody made it, on their own type Master Sword. So it's the scabbard looks nice, the hilt looks nice, but if you take the blade out, it's just this blocky looking blade. So it's it's a showpiece for sure. You don't take the blade out. Anyway, so yeah, and they were also again groundbreaking franchises in gameplay. The side scrollers and the top downs, the top down world of Zelda 1 and just these pseudo RPG adventures.
Yeah, I mean they were then the Zelda series has always been one of those games that I won't hesitate to sit down and play one. Just even if it's just to do goof off in it, I'll still play them. Like the original Zelda, I'll still play. Ocarina of Time is arguably one of the best Zelda games in that series that they've ever made. Majora's Mask, truthfully, I never really got into it. I didn't like the timed mechanics, but there's people out there who will swear that Majora's Mask is the best Zelda game. Which, if you like it, absolutely love it. I didn't dislike it. I just didn't like it as well as any of the other Zelda games. So,
yeah, no, that's fair. And I was kind of the same way. I just couldn't connect with it.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was difficult for me to connect with it. But then there, you've got Skyward Sword, you've got Wind Waker, which I know was one of your favorites.
Yeah, I love the art style of it. I love the mechanics of it. I love the story of it. Everything about that game. I can't think of anything that I didn't like about Wind Waker. I love that game.
Wind Waker was another one of those games that I never really got into, but I know it was enjoyable, and I always remember the one scene from Wind Waker. You may know what I'm going to talk about. Where
is it the wind, Ian?
What was that sound? Somebody hears something and they say, "What was that noise?" And then Link, standing there, who never speaks, meows.
Yep,
because he's hiding behind a wall. Like, oh, it was just a cat. So,
his first technical word was meow.
Well, I think it was. It was hit, hut, hiya.
I think Link just dropped a log or something.
Right. Well, and then we jump ahead to Breath of the Wild, which was the first open world
game. Yes.
Open world Zelda game. So it was really there was a story, but you did it in whatever order you wanted to.
Absolutely.
You did whatever you wanted.
You could go straight to Ganon if you wanted to. If you had the guts to try it, you could.
Right. If you were that good with your 3 hearts, you can march through Guardian Central.
Mm-hmm. There's
go
people that
smack
have done
the
it though.
big bad in the face.
There's people that have beaten the game, with just the bare minimum on them, and I'm like, that's
right.
Kudos
Literally
to
a
you.
stick.
Yeah.
No, it's one of the Breath of the Wild that was a new adventure for really a breath of fresh air for Zelda.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, they changed up the mechanics of it incredibly. Right. Yeah. And like normally in a game like that, if you change too much, it almost ruins the experience. This, like what you said, it was a breath of fresh air because it was so entirely different. You didn't have to do
well done.
Yes, you didn't have to do the dungeons in order. Get this dungeon to unlock this tool halfway through that will complete the puzzles in that you use for the first part of the next dungeon to unlock a new tool.
Hello, water temple.
Yeah. Oh my God, the water temple. But lather, rinse, repeat. With this, you just go and do what you want, how you want, when you want. And the one thing, one of the things I really liked about the game was all the callbacks to particularly Ocarina of Time. I mean, if you haven't played Breath of the Wild at this point, I'm assuming you don't own a Switch because that's the only reason to not have played it. But they make calls back to the ranch,
Lon Lon Ranch.
Lon Lon Ranch. Thank you. Like you see it in ruins, but when I found that, just I didn't even know that was in there, but I just came along and I'm like, oh, there's this ruined farm thingy. As I'm walking around, the nostalgia immediately kicks in, and I'm like, wait a second, there's a track running around the outside of it. There's 2 buildings over here. There's this tower thing over here. And then it clicked with me that was Lon Lon Ranch. And seeing it in ruin like that, really, put how bad things got, before the game started into perspective,
Yeah, and I could probably take an entire episode just to talk through the Zelda games and the timelines and things like that, because it's a very involved, very detailed timeline, and I recently got it's over on my bookshelf.
Is the
one
Historia?
of the Hyrule compendiums.
I picked one of those up a while back myself. I mean that for anybody that's a Zelda fan, that is an absolute must-have. I mean it goes over everything you could think of. I mean, they even have the official Nintendo timeline, which the funny thing about that is even fans have gone back and said, now wait a second. If this is this timeline, then how can this, and this match up? And Nintendo just went, what do you want from us? Have you played these games? 3 of them are about time travel, for God's sake. Just play them and enjoy it, all right?
Right. And really, that was the thing. It was I think that was kind of their scapegoat was Breath of the Wild, which they basically said, Breath of the Wild is the convergence of all of the timelines.
Right.
Everything. This is all everything of the happened. Timelines. Correct. Everything happened, and it all became Breath of the Wild. So,
which I'm okay with it. It's not Back to the Future, all right? Just get over it and enjoy the games, all right?
Exactly. And I'm very much looking forward to Breath of the Wild 2 whenever they get around to giving more than the 30-second teaser 2 years ago.
I was going to say, that was 2-3 years ago, and literally we've heard nothing about it since then.
Nintendo is fantastic with their Nintendo Directs of just dropping bombshells on you, and you're just wait, what?
Well, heck, I mean, they announced, the next Metroid Prime, when the Switch launched, and here we are now, years later, and it's anything,
I thought I saw that they released another Metroid side-scroller as kind of almost a spiritual sequel to Prime.
Did they?
I think it came out recently.
I don't remember hearing anything about. I mean, I might just be out of the loop. There's a distinct possibility that might be the case.
I mean, it's very, very, very possible. I'm sorry. I guess it's a 2D fan made project.
Oh, okay.
But it's a side scroller version of Metroid Prime.
Oh, that's cool. Now, what was the? It was kind of an offshoot of that for the Game Boy Advance, where
Zero Metroid. No, Metroid Zero,
where Samus had her suit fused with a Metroid or something.
Oh, Metroid Fusion.
Okay, duh. See that I really like that.
Kim.
Gundam Mime.
Yeah.
I would love to see them remake that one though, because Fusion it was such an underrated part of the Metroid series, which I mean Metroid another iconic Nintendo staple.
Right.
But I really liked Fusion. I played the crap out of it. I would love to see that remade. For
the Metroid games themselves also have a very interesting like story and mythos and timeline. Like
absolutely.
the Prime games actually happened before the original Metroid games.
Yeah.
Like that, they're set before that timeline, and I think Fusion is set after.
I gotta
I think it's
remember.
set. I think it's set after the Metroid timeline, or no, actually, I think it's set before Prime.
It's either right before Prime or right after Prime. It's been a while since I played it, but
Yeah.
I mean it falls somewhere in the timeline. But like the Prime game, I mean, because when Prime came out, it was so different because the classic Metroids were all side scrollers. That's what people were
Right.
used to. And then when Prime came out and it was a full 3D game, a lot of people are like, this isn't Metroid. This isn't going to be that good. You know, you're changing too much. And then everybody freaking loved it.
Right.
Myself included. I scanned everything in that game.
Exactly. Well, do you remember? I mean, it is probably going to be a little bit of derisive, but do you remember Metroid Other M?
I never played it, but I do remember it.
It was created, for those of you that don't know, Metroid Other M was another one of the games that. Oh, okay. Sorry. Quick Wikipedia seems to indicate that Fusion happens after Super Metroid, but
Okay.
Metroid Other M happens in between. In between the games,
Okay.
in between Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion.
Okay. Okay.
So you know, Other M was created by a different studio,
Yeah.
Team Ninja, who were more well known for like
Dead or Alive.
You know, they're Dead or Alive, and you know some of their other like more action-oriented games rather than
like Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball.
Exactly. Other M lacked the jiggle physics, so there was at least that.
Which I mean, I don't think that would have detracted from the game, from what I heard of it. But you know,
yeah.
Like the thing that, like, again, I never played it, but the thing I heard everybody saying was the characterization of Samus in that game just seems so out of character. Like, you could have made it literally anybody else and people would have been okay with it, but the fact that it was Samus herself, they didn't like the way she was portrayed in that one.
Right. I mean, they tried to do more story and more like characterization of Samus, but I think they kind of made her a little bit too, I don't know, damsel in distressy.
Whiny is the word I heard through around. But
okay, that's fair. And also, I was incorrect. I stand corrected. So, Metroid Prime happens in between the original Metroid and Metroid 2: Return of Samus.
Okay.
So that is the continuity where it takes place, which I guess makes sense because there are actual Metroids in that game. If it happened before the Metroid game, that was where she first meets Metroids.
Right, and that makes sense because she wouldn't have recognized Ridley or or any of the other staples of that series.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So Metroid obviously has been one of those fantastic series. I love it. I'm waiting for the next game to come out.
Yep.
I think it'll be another fantastic series, assuming Nintendo keeps it first party.
Yep.
Well, I know first party development, first party studio. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm not necessarily parted out to it.
Not in house technically.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Well, I mean, especially like these last couple of years, like particularly since the Switch has launched, Nintendo has been really good about knowing who to hand their franchises off to if they're having somebody else do it. Like a case in point, coming out later this month, as of the time of recording, the new Pokemon Snap, which I'm absolutely picking up because I love the original Snap, is done by the same team that did Hyrule Warriors, because Nintendo absolutely loved how they handled that. So they said, hey, we're going to hand another one of our IPs over to you. So I mean, they're putting that trust in people that they have that business relationship with, and they're really good about knowing who to give these things to. Which, I mean, kudos to Nintendo for having all these great partnerships, because we as players are getting all these great games. I'm not complaining.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And Nintendo's even still like bringing new franchises. Like, they're not just reusing old franchises. They're like bringing new life into their pantheon. What's the game with the squidlings?
Splatoon.
Splatoon.
Yep.
Yeah. Splatoon, which is another fun, fantastic, kidsy type game. I mean, it's a fun game. They're making a third one. I mean, the third one's been greenlit. They're fun games.
Absolutely.
And of course, one of my favorite Nintendo based games is Super Smash Brothers.
Yep. I mean,
because
that one I remember when it first came out in Japan. The local video store, like the guy that was there, like he like looked into all the games that were coming out in Japan to know, all right, hey, this is doing really good there. Let's put some orders in for it so we can have them here for the rental store. He actually imported a copy of Smash Brothers for the N64. Now, the N64 technically was region free. The only thing was the cartridges were a slightly different shape. If you have an N64 cartridge, or can grab one real quick, if you look at the bottom of it, in the corners on the back of it, the bottom of it, there's those two little notches cut out.
Yep.
On the Japanese version, those notches are filled in with plastic, so that it won't physically fit into an American system. So he imported it, he knew about that, and literally just took like tiny bolt cutters and cut off the bottom corner there. So if you looked at the cartridge, it looked like it got a little mangled, but you could play it. And I remember like seeing this thing and going, okay, what is this? And like they had the box there you could look at. I'm like, oh, all right, and it was in Japanese, so I had no idea what it was. So I asked the guy, he told me, and I'm like, cool, I'm gonna rent this. And I ended up renting it for probably 2 to 3 weeks straight. Like, to the point where he said, hey, look, I know we have unlimited rentals as long as you pay for it, but we've got other people that are really wanting to play this. Is there any way you can return it? So I had my mom drive me up there, took it back, and then like maybe 2 weeks later I saw it was back in, so I rented it again. And then when it came out in the States, I absolutely bought it because, I couldn't read any of the menus, but I figured it out from playing it for, a month and a half effectively. Then when it came out to the States, it wasn't, because this is before I met you. One of my friends from elementary school came over because I was telling them about this game. And they're like, dude, you're so good at this game. I'm like, yeah, I've been playing it for like 2 months almost. Before it came out.
It was, Smash Brothers has been one of those like quintessential, just fun game. It's kind of like Mario Party with less hating your friends.
I mean, depending on the game mode you're playing, anyway.
This is true. But I mean, what a really fun thing to do. Like, it is both violent and not violent at the same time. Like, it's a fighting game, but you're not fatalitying your friends. You're not like eviscerating your cracking skulls.
It's not Mortal Kombat.
Like it's not Mortal Kombat. It's not Tekken.
Right. Don't they even say like the story of Smash Brothers is it's all a good-natured brawl? They don't use the term fight. It's a good-natured brawl.
Except for Super Smash Brothers Brawl, which is the name of a game.
Right. But they say it's a good-natured brawl. These are all Mario and his friends getting together to have a good time. I don't know about you guys, but when Ian and I get together, we whack each other with baseball bats and Star Wands. I mean, isn't that normal?
Yeah.
I mean, for us it is, but we're weird.
Well, yes, and realistically, whatever we can get our hands on.
I mean, I've got my super sledge over there. I could probably grab that.
Cat, go!
I choose you, kitty. Man. Smash is one of those. It hasn't had as many entries as like Mario, who has a million games. But it's still one of those that, like, when a Nintendo console comes out, you can bet, ever since the N64, there's going to be a Smash for it.
Yeah, but you know what? Who cares how many titles it's had? They have, like, 80 characters in it.
Dude, like, Smash Ultimate, like, I don't know if they're going to, if Nintendo inevitably does come out with something, to succeed the Switch. I don't know, like, how they're going to top that, except for adding in more characters. But at what point, 80 characters, at what point does too many characters become a little ridiculous? I mean, never, because Nintendo, like the characters they're putting in there are really good choices. Waluigi for Smash.
Yeah, I mean, look at the lineup. And the other thing is, like, you have characters that aren't traditionally Nintendo.
I mean,
you have
Solid
Cloud.
Snake is in there.
Solid Snake. You've got Cloud. You've got Sephiroth. You have
Bayonetta. Yep.
Who is? I think technically her first game was on a Nintendo console, I believe.
No, they were originally on the 360 and PS3. Bayonetta 3 was that was a Nintendo exclusive because Nintendo was like, hey, we want this game. Here's money.
Right.
Which they did also re-release Bayonetta 1 and 2 on the Switch. And then 3 was an entirely new game. But the Bayonetta, like, those are just, like, stupid. If you like Devil May Cry, they're along that same vein. They're just stupid fun games.
Right. I mean, then, you've obviously got the Fire Emblem pantheon of characters. Yep. You've got
the Mario
Victor,
pantheon. Oh,
you've got Richter and crap, I don't remember the other guy's the other guy's name. From Castlevania.
Simon.
Simon, yeah, yep. Simon and Richter from Castlevania. You've got Game & Watch, one of the more obscure.
He was one of my favorites to play as.
Yeah, you've got Rob 64. Mm-hmm. The little weird robot that they had a peripheral of.
Yep.
They've got Baby Bowser. You've got Bowser.
They have the Duck Hunt dog with the duck.
Duck Hunt dog.
Olimar from Pikmin. I mean, you've got the Ice Climbers. I mean, you've got pretty much point at any Nintendo franchise that has had even a little bit of success, and there probably is a representation of Smash, whether it's a playable character or as a trophy. Or as an assist character.
They've got Ming Ming from ARMS. They've got...
Oh, man. Yeah, I forgot they added Ming Ming in.
Or Min Min. Sorry, Min Min from ARMS.
Which I didn't get into ARMS too much, but it's cool that Nintendo is still showing some love there.
Right. They've got the Squidlings, obviously. Then they've got all the different versions of Link.
Literally.
Link, Kid Link, Cartoon Link.
Let's see, they've got Pit, Dark Pit,
Palutena.
Yeah. I mean, Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong. I mean, man, yeah, we're Ganondorf. I'm trying to think if there's any
Zelda, obviously. Zelda, Sheik. They've
you can even be in Smash because they have the Mii characters. You can make yourself.
Partnership with Microsoft. They have Steve from Minecraft.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Like when they announced that, everybody kind of went, "What?"
Yeah, they've got Isabella from the and the villager from
Animal Crossing.
I still maintain that Isabella could kill the Doomslayer.
Like the fact that there's this fan community built around the fact that Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal came out on the same day. That like there's this one of the fanfics is that those two are best friends. On weekend or during the week, Doomslayer comes to the village and harvests flowers and helps pick up garbage and gets the fruit off the trees. And on the weekends, Isabella goes with him to kill demons. I am all for this fan theory.
I am too, absolutely. So Nintendo has obviously had these iconic franchises. They've had iconic platforms. Mm-hmm. They've really defined themselves as their own genre, really, of own entity within the gaming community.
Well, and they've redefined themselves too. I mean, multiple times. Yeah. Like before the Switch, people always used to say Nintendo was a family-friendly console because traditionally that's what they were. You would occasionally get a teen-rated game.
Do you remember Mad World?
Yeah. And you had the occasional M-rated game, but for the most part, they were a family-friendly console. And then I think they had a real paradigm shift when the Switch came out. They went from being a family-friendly console to a console for the whole family. Because the Switch has a lot more mature-rated games than what Nintendo has ever had. They have things that, the 4 people in my household, we all have Switches. There's literally a game for any of us.
Yep.
I mean, there's my daughter has this random unicorn game. And I have, and I know we talked about this in a prior episode, I have Skyrim for my Switch because it's another console it came out for. So right. I mean, there's quite a bit of gamut there from a game where you raise unicorns and and pet them to a game where you're killing dragons. I mean, they've got everything. Well,
I mean, isn't there a unicorn in Skyrim?
I mean, I probably killed it, but yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Because there's a thing in Skyrim, point my sword at it. I'm going.
Exactly. You go boom.
You dead now.
You dead now. Yeah, so it's Nintendo has really done a bang-up job, and I just think of all of the other, I think we're coming up right around time for us, so that we can talk about some of these other things later. But I mean, they've also spawned other forms of media. The Super Mario Brothers Super Show. Swing your arms from side to side.
Come on, it's time to go to the Mario.
Yes, with the Lou Albano as Mario.
Yep. Rest in peace, Lou.
Right, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, the cartoon series that they had, the other cartoon series that they had that was just the cartoons,
which was more based on Mario 3, if I remember right.
There was two of them actually. So there
Was there?
was a Mario 3 one, and
Okay.
then there was also a Super Mario World cartoon, which
I
which
forgot
had
about
Yoshi
that one.
and
Yeah, I
the
forgot about
other
that
Koopa
one.
kids, and
Yeah.
I have it on DVD somewhere.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Then they had
There was the Zelda cartoon. They had
well, excuse me, princess.
dude. Oh my god. Well, they had Captain and the Game Master. Do you remember that one?
Yep, I do remember that one.
Do you remember Mega Man? How they portrayed him in that?
Yes.
Like, somewhere somebody from Capcom's just sitting there shaking their head angrily.
I mean, I have to imagine they're doing that. I have to imagine they've been doing that ever since they did that first Resident Evil movie.
Well, I mean, yeah, that too.
But I guess maybe not as much as I thought, considering they did hand the reins to those guys to do Monster Hunter.
I mean, we talked about Monster Hunter. I liked it. You know, somebody had to.
I didn't dislike it.
Right.
I think I borrowed something from Robin. I was whelmed.
You were whelmed.
I wasn't underwhelmed. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was just whelmed.
Just whelmed. You were officially whelmed.
Yes, I was officially whelmed. I found something that finally officially whelmed me.
There you go.
Anyway, so I think as we're going to wrap up here, I will kind of leave you with this nugget of trivia for you at the time of this taping. I don't know. I don't think Mario's gonna win. Bowser's in charge of Nintendo of America.
I'm sitting there like, where are you going with this?
Trivia for you folks. The previous president of Nintendo of America retired a few years ago, and his named predecessor was Mr. Doug Bowser. So Bowser, Mario's arch rival, is in charge of Nintendo of America. He has officially won.
Well, and like their prior president, good old Reggie.
Right, Reggie fills eggs.
His body is ready. That's all I'm going to say about Reggie. His body is ready. If you know what that means, then you are a Nintendo fan. Or have been on the internet anytime in the last 10 years.
Yep. Yep. So, I think we've covered a lot about Nintendo. We have a lot of love for them, and
absolutely.
We humbly apologize, Nintendo, for not covering more about you sooner. We've just been wrapped up in a whole lot of other stuff. But, please know that we still hold you still hold you in high regard, a very special place in our hearts. My Switch is sitting about 8 feet away from me in the dock right now. I need to get back and finish Hyrule Warriors. I need to replay Breath of the Wild because my kids erased my save file.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. Ouch. And, I'm looking forward to what you have for us here in the future.
Switch Pro.
Even if it is more Pokemon games, I don't care.
I'm perfectly okay with that.
Yeah. So, I think with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up for tonight, folks.
Seems like a good spot.
Yeah, it seems like a good spot. Again, covered a lot. We thank you for listening. Again, you can find us on YouTube and Anchor.fm, as well as your other favorite podcast listening platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, which finally works.
We are officially on Apple Podcasts, people. So if Apple is your platform of choice, we are now there.
Yep, it finally works, which was no fault of ours. Apple had a system issue.
Yep.
And we are sticking to that. So, find us and listen to us there. Watch us on YouTube. Check out our sites, www.nonsequiturnerds.com. We will eventually make it prettier than what it is now.
It works. I mean...
Yes, you will be whelmed.
Our website, you will be whelmed. That's going to be that should be the tagline for our show. You will be whelmed.
Exactly. So, I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. So... for Non Sequitur Nerds, I am Ian, and this is my hetero life mate, Tim.
Nugans.
We wish you all have a happy, good afternoon, good night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us.